How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to Second Gear Smiles, and my mom's car is back up here for some maintenance, and today we're going to be doing a spark plug change as well as a brake fluid flush on a 2018 Acura ILX. Correction, brake fluid flush is not happening today. Today we did the spark plugs, the engine air filter, and the cabin air filter, so stick around for that. My mom has to be somewhere, I have to be somewhere, and it's already 1 o'clock. So the video for brake fluid flush on the 2018 Acura ILX is going to be pinned up right here. And with everything being so expensive nowadays, it's always beneficial to be able to save money where you can. And on this spark plug job and brake fluid flush, I called around to a couple places, got a couple different quotes. Minus the cost of the brake fluid and the spark plugs for my mom's car, I'm saving her anywhere between $400 and $600 depending on the location, whether it was a dealership, a Midas, or a mom and pop shop. Obviously, the mom and pop shops are going to be a little bit less expensive, but even still, $400 for my mom, who lives by herself, isn't a super cheap expense, so we're gonna be doing this for her. Without further ado, let's get into it. So these are all the tools you need for the spark plug job. You don't need an electric ratchet. A regular ratchet will work just fine, but this just makes things go by a little bit faster. Additionally, if you don't have a 3/8 torque wrench, that's fine too. I got to double check to make sure this torque wrench actually goes down as low as the torque spec for the spark plugs. Again, if you don't have this, we'll talk about that in a second. You just got to make it snug. Don't be stupid with the spark plugs. Don't strip out the threads in the block. That's a bad day for everybody. But you'll need a 3/8 ratchet, a 10mm socket. A standard one works just fine. An assortment of extensions. You probably won't need this one, but I like to have the wobble just in case I need it. This is just a 6-inch and a 3-inch extension. A 14mm spark plug socket. These are optional as well for the electrical connectors on the coil packs. However, I absolutely despise pressing my thumbs down on electrical connectors to pop stuff off. I have really bad hitchhiker's thumb, so I absolutely despise pressing down on electrical disconnects. So I have a couple different, over the course of several years, I've just acquired different electrical disconnect pliers. These are all from Lyle. These will be down in the description. Hopefully I'll have an affiliate link set up by the time this video comes out, but if not, no sweat it. Just go ahead and check these out. I absolutely love these pliers because, again, I hate doing that nonsense. As far as parts go, I went ahead and got some Denzo Iridium spark plugs. I have a spark plug gap tool. You shouldn't need it for Iridium spark plug. In fact, the manufacturer doesn't recommend it. I'll go ahead and put the spark plug gap up on the screen for the ILX, but ideally you don't mess with the electrode on Iridium spark plugs. Some consumables, some copper anti-seize lubricant to put around the spark plug threads. Step number one, after obviously raising the hood, is going to be to remove this plastic cover, and it is held in with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 10mm bolts. And of course, this hood is made out of aluminum, so my magnetic pole is not sticking to anything. Engine's still a little warm. That's okay. All right, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to disconnect these electrical connections. And again, I hate doing this and pulling out. It does not tickle my tism at all. So I'll demonstrate it. You just pop this up and then wiggle it out. So you can do it if you don't have the disconnect pliers, but I recommend buying a set of electrical disconnect pliers. They just make life so much easier. These ones, obviously, you don't need the electrical pliers, the disconnect pliers, but especially when you're working under an engine or in tight confined spaces. Oh, come on, what's going on here? I might have to use my fingers for this one. There's like a little lip right here. There we go. So this piece of the valve cover is buttoned up right against the bottom of this electrical disconnect plier, so just FYI on that. That might be a little tricky. Now I'm going to disconnect this little plastic clip here that holds this electrical rail in place. There we go. And we're just going to kind of scooch that out of the way. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to disconnect these 10mm bolts that are holding the coil packs in. And now we should be able to just wiggle these apart and pop these out. There's no oil on the coil pack, which is a good sign. So one thing I forgot to mention in the beginning of the video, grab some painter's tape or just a sticky note, or just put them in order. I honestly don't know if the order of the coil packs matter, but just to be on the safe side, I'm gonna make sure these go back in the same order as I took them out. If you're a Honda technician or if you know more about this than I do, by all means, drop a comment down below. There's a little bit of oil on this one. So not enough to be super concerned, but just something to keep an eye on in the future. All right, hopefully there's no oil on this one. Nope, that one looks good. All right, now obviously at this point you want to be careful not to knock anything into the engine, no dirt, no nothing. So just be careful about that. Now we got our 14mm spark plug socket. I recommend one that's relatively tall. You don't need a swivel on this engine. I bought these swivel spark plug sockets to work on my wife's Subaru. And I think that came loose. All right, that's the first one. All right, now there is nothing stopping anything going into the engine, so you definitely want to make sure nothing falls in. Overall, that doesn't look too bad. This car is at 72,000 miles. Spark plug recommendation is 75,000 miles, so it's definitely well worn. So, but nothing about this is super concerning. There's no scorch marks. There's no oil on it. Overall, it looks pretty much what a 72,000 mile spark plug should look like, which is good. So these are NGK. I bought Denzo ones. Denzo makes spark plugs for both Honda and Toyota. But it looks like on this particular Acura model, the original equipment manufacturer was NGK. Not a big deal. I do like try to buy original equipment manufacturer whenever possible, but Denzo makes stuff for both Honda and Toyota of various models, so I'm not going to go back and get NGK ones. I'm just going to stick with the Denzo ones. All right, and that's all 4 spark plugs out. Cylinder 1 is right here, cylinder 4 is right here, and I'm not seeing any major difference. They definitely look worn, again, which is expected for 72,000 miles. These are the factory originals when this car is new. And yeah, I'm not seeing anything that is causing any concern. It looks like this kind of toasty bit right here. That discoloration is pretty regular across all 4, so I think that's just normal. But yeah, let's go ahead and put the new spark plugs in. So these are Iridium spark plugs. You're not supposed to gap these. I'm just going to double check it. The spark plug gap for a 2018 Acura ILX with this 4-cylinder engine is supposed to be 0.044. You got 0.02 down here, and so 0.44 should be like right about there. That's reading about 0.041. I am not going to gap it. 0.03 deviance I think is good for this application, which is just, again, a regular Honda K-Series commuter car. I'd be more concerned about boogering up the Iridium spark plugs than a 0.03 tolerance, I guess is what I'm getting at. So next thing I'm going to do before I put these back in is I'm going to just a little bit of anti-seize, copper anti-seize to make sure that these don't get seized inside the engine. Again, a little bit goes a long way. All right, now I'm going to do this with every single spark plug. I'm going to put it back in. When you're putting the spark plugs back in, just put it on the extension. Don't use the electric ratchet. Just make sure you thread it in by hand. That way you know you're not cross-threading it. There we go. All right. All right, now that we got the first spark plug snug, we're going to torque it down to 18 foot-pounds. If you don't have a 3/8 torque wrench, that's okay. Just tighten it down until it's snug. Don't go stupid with it. All right, that's 18 foot-pounds. Cylinder number 1 is just about done. The last thing we're going to do before we put this coil pack back in is just lightly coat it with some dielectric grease. Don't need to be crazy with it. All right, that's spark plug number 1 done. Let's do the rest of them. Son of a bitch. All right, my dumbass accidentally dropped the brush of anti-seize onto the spark plug. So I got anti-seize onto the electrode, which is less than ideal. So what I end up doing is just take a little bit of brake cleaner, and I spent the last like 10 minutes or so just making sure that the electrode and everything that's not the threads is thoroughly clean. So brake clean is quick drying. That should be fine, but if I do go for a test drive and the engine starts sounding weird, that's probably why. So yeah, just be mindful of where you're throwing the brush after you set it down. That was dumb. All right, cylinder number 3. So this is the spark plug that didn't have anti-seize on the electrode. I'm going to put that in cylinder number 4. So if anything's wrong with the car, I can just go to this one. But I'm pretty sure I got all the anti-seize off the spark plug. That was just a dumb mistake. Cylinder number 3 coil pack is back in. We got one more. All right, spark plugs are back in with copper anti-seize. I've already spoken about that one. The coil packs are back in with the dielectric grease, and now we're going to put the 10mm bolts back in. Don't know the torque spec on this, just thread it down until it's snug. All right, snug. All right, bolts are back in. Now we're just gonna pop this electrical rail back into place, and now we're gonna just pop these electrical connectors back on. This first cylinder is a little, is this gonna be as annoying? No. All right, getting that back on was not as bad. All right, get that. Got clicks on all of them. Sweet. All right, and before I go and put the cover back on, I'm just gonna start up the engine, just see how it goes, and then if there's anything super crazy, I at least have somewhat access to it right now. All right, 3, 2, 1, contact. I'm not seeing any check engine lights. It sounds really good, or at least from inside the car. Oh, that sounds a lot better. All right, now we're gonna put this back on. It sounds a lot better than it has been over the last couple times when my mom's brought this up for oil changes. It hasn't sounded terrible, but it clearly needed the spark plug replacement. Let's go ahead and get this cover back on, and we'll move on to the next part of the job. I'm always paranoid about cross-threading things to start with. I've made enough mistakes in my shade tree mechanic career. That's what happens when you get experience. Of course, my dad always said that getting experience was like getting a comb after losing all your hair. Before we close out this part of the video, I'm gonna go and drive to AutoZone, get an engine air filter for my mom. Advanced Auto didn't have it, so the drive over to AutoZone is gonna be the test drive, so let's do that. The other thing we're gonna be doing this weekend is swapping out my mom's cabin air filter. One, because it needs to be replaced, but also I dropped some extra money and got her a K&N reusable filter. This was $49 at Advanced Auto. And cabin air filters, even the cheap ones, are like 15, 20 bucks, so this should pay for itself after about 60,000 miles or so. First, clear out your mom's, all the stuff that's in her glove compartment. She had a lot in here. Pop this down, just lift it up, pop that back, and then just squeeze in. And then you'll have access to the cabin air filter. Pop this cover off. Unlike a Chrysler or Mercedes, this is actually super easy to get to, as it should be, because it's a very frequently replaced item. And yeah, this probably needs to be replaced. Also, I'm fixing the quarter panel windows in the Fox Bunny Mustang. Stay tuned for that. And then I'm also restoring a snap-on box. So I got a couple things going on right now. This is going in the trash. All right, so it says, the instructions say that it only fits one direction. So let's, maybe I had it the other way. Maybe I had it right the first time. I was told this was the right part for it. Oh, there we go. Okay, I did have it right the first time. All right, that's back on. All right, doing that one-handed in this relatively small car, because I'm 6'2", is kind of annoying. So went and pop that back on, and then pop that back on. And for some reason, this like retracts. There we go. And I'm gonna put all this back in our glove box in a second, but that's done. All right, so we just got back from picking up lunch and picking up the engine air filter. Car ran great. It definitely sounds better. It definitely feels better. So those spark plugs definitely needed to be replaced. So we're gonna move into the next part of the video, but let's go ahead and get the engine air filter in. All right, before my mom gets out of here, just do a quick couple things. Check the engine oil. I just did the oil change for this car not even 2 months ago, so it should still be good. And that looks perfect. Fill up the windshield washer fluid for the madre. Interesting. This engine air filter is held in with Phillips. Weird. It'll give me an excuse to use my new Vessel GIS screwdrivers. Do you need a GIS screwdriver to replace the engine air filter? Probably not, but I've had these for a while for another project, and these are really nice screwdrivers, and so I'm gonna use them. I've never seen an engine air filter held in by screws. Let's unloosen them all and see if maybe they just stay in that little gasket thing. Oh, what is going on here? Oh, you gotta be fucking kidding me. Did I just fucking strip that out? God damn it. All right, maybe I do need these Vessel ones, because this is a impact screwdriver, so I've never thought I'd actually have to use this on a cabin air or engine air filter. This bottom one is probably too big, but let's see if this one works. I never thought I'd have to use these screwdrivers for something so simple. I was just using this as just to use them, but apparently now I actually need them. So get yourself a set of JIS screwdrivers. All right. What the fuck? Why? Why? Maybe if I just wiggle this back and forth. All right, let me show you what I'm dealing with. That right there. It's partially stripped out. Let me get a slotted screwdriver, see if I can. That slotted screwdriver is probably not gonna do any better. There we go. Whew. Good Lord. All right, so just press down, like that's why having did not anticipate this being a legitimate use of the Japanese industrial standard screwdrivers, but make sure it's properly fitted in, and then just like gently wiggle it back and forth, trying to break up whatever corrosion or just friction that was going on with there. So I'm glad I was able to get that loose without getting stripped. All right, so this stays in, it looks like. Although there is one missing on this side, so I'll put that on order for my mom. Slide this bad boy out. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, don't you know? Yeah, that needs to be replaced. I missed. Another video coming up, my janky Facebook Marketplace compressor that I bought that I haven't even tested out to see if it runs yet, but I got it with the Snap-on box and all the tools I'm restoring and the box I'm restoring, and that came with the deal, so hopefully it runs. Oh, there's some leaves and gunk in there. There we go. Pop that back in. Tighten these screws down. I do like these screwdrivers. One, because it unironically got me out of a pickle just now. And two, the handles are very nice. And they're magnetic tips. I mean, look at that. Boop. Like that's a good fit. Yeah. If you're working on Japanese cars, or Japanese anything mechanic, get yourself a set of GIS screwdrivers. Vessel, the link to this will be in the description below. Probably not an affiliate link at this point, but I love these. I absolutely love these screwdrivers. I bought these to do the oil pump on the Land Cruiser. I haven't gotten around to that yet, but JIS screwdrivers on the Prado, aka the 3rd gen 4Runner, and JIS screws a whole bunch of other stuff. And one of the most common problems on that job is stripping out the screws because you're not using see if it'll focus, a GIS screw. Their brochure does a better job of kind of identifying the difference, but most people think it's just a Phillips, but there is a difference between a GIS screw and a standard Phillips. So, Vessel, love these things. All right, everybody, we did the engine air filter, we did the cabin air filter, we topped off the windshield wiper fluid, and most importantly for today, we got the spark plugs done. So, we didn't do the brake fluid flush, so that quote I said earlier was for brake fluid flush and for spark plugs. So, not exactly sure how much money we spent today sans the brake fluid flush, but it was at least a couple $100, especially with the cabin filter and the engine air filter. Dealerships and shops, just, I get it, they got to make money, but they overcharge on that. Don't pay for engine air filter and cabin air filter replacements on most models. There's some weird crappy Mercedes and Chrysler models where you have to disassemble the whole freaking interior just to get to the cabin air filter. That's the exception, not the rule. So unless you have one of those weird cars like that, it's just in the glove box. Don't pay for filters. You can definitely do that something yourself. And now, hopefully with the help of this video, you can change out the spark plugs on your 2018 Acura ILX yourself and save your family or yourself a couple $100. I hope you found this video helpful. If you did, go ahead and drop that clutch on that subscribe button, comment down below, give this video a thumbs up, and maybe click on any of my links and help me build my channel. Thanks. Bye.